Hello there, I'm Mr. Beast, and this is my show. You think if I say that, 100 million people will watch this show without realizing that it's not him?
YouTube exclusive content.
So the other day I was scrolling along on Instagram Reels and I came across a video that really just rattled my bones and shook me to the core in the best possible way and reinvigorated my love of the internet. And I don't want to front load the top of the video with too much mustard. Let's just watch this video that I'm talking about together. That's my favorite part. I love it so much. I love it so much. It's so good. Why? The yo-yos again. God, I love that so much. I love that video so much. Yeah, so that's a production of Chicago. I don't know where it's from, but it's definitely been making its rounds out there on the internet. So maybe you've been lucky enough to see it already, or maybe this is the first you're seeing it. But it's pretty phenomenal. It's pretty great. I just want to watch a couple parts one more time. Yeah, that. That's it. That's my favorite part. What are they? Are they jump roping? Oh my God, it's so good. What? No, wait. Right here. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, dude. Oh my God, it's so good. Somebody in the comments on Instagram Reels said, everyone's talking about the yo-yos, but no one's talking about the fact that the choreography is also awful. And I had to go back and watch again because the first time I watched it, all I could see were the yo-yos. And yeah, I went back and I was like, oh my God, just the choreography itself without the yo-yos, take the yo-yos out of the equation. The choreography itself is wild. So look, I love this video, but in my personal artistic opinion, this choreography as a choice in this production of Chicago doesn't actually work. I think that's okay to say, right? It was a choice, for sure. It's a choice, but I don't think it's super successful. And that's my most diplomatic way of saying that it's not very good. So what I thought we could do today on the show as a little fun treat is just a critical analysis of why it doesn't work and why it's not very good. Let's do a critical analysis of Chicago with yo-yos. Chicago yo. Chicago yo. I like Chicago yo. Chicago yo. A critical analysis of Chicago yo. Before we get into this analysis too deep, we got to do two things. One is we got to introduce you to today's sponsor. So take it away, today's sponsor. Hello, I'm Austin Archer, and today's YouTube video was sponsored by me and this double vinyl of my album Beautiful Things, the Deluxe Edition. You can order your copy of this beautiful limited edition double vinyl at the link in the description. Also, this video was sponsored by my Patreon patrons, which you could be one of. Thank you. Thank you so much, me, for sponsoring this video, and might I say, you're looking quite handsome today. Huh. Thank you. I'm just wearing the same thing that you're wearing, but I put a cardigan on. And the second thing we need to do before we get into this critical analysis is something that's kind of uncomfortable. I feel like it's maybe important for me to qualify myself to you as the audience so that you know that my analysis is coming from a place of professional experience and knowledge. But what that means is that I'm going to have to talk at you for a little bit about, like, who I am and what I've done.
Do you know who I am? I'm
Austin Archer. But yeah, I'm one of those insufferable multi-hyphenate people who does a lot of things artistically and creatively. What I've been most publicly known for in the last 5 years or so is making videos on the internet and acting. You know, people see me in commercials on TV, and occasionally I'll pop up in a TV show or a movie here and there. But mostly it's just I'm a white guy with a mustache who pops up on your phone from time to time. But the truth is that throughout my professional life, I've worn many hats in the showbiz industry. But probably the thing that I used to do that is most surprising to people, and also most surprising to even me, if I'm being honest, is I used to be a choreographer, and I used to get hired to choreograph things a lot. And I think I was pretty good at it, if I do say so myself. And yeah, I just say all of that so that you know that I do have some experience in this area. So there are three main reasons why I think that the Shikagoyo choreography doesn't work. And before I get into those, I'd like to just do an initial analysis, an initial breakdown of what I'm seeing when I watch this video, without talking about, you know, what's working and what's not working, just what I'm seeing as a person who's done a lot of work in independent theater in my life. So right off the bat, I can tell you that this is a show that had a pretty decent budget. I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't say that this was an equity production, a professional production where these actors and these artists were getting paid a weekly salary for their work. I do think this is an independent production where most of these dancers and actors were probably working for a stipend. It was probably somewhere between $500 and $1,500 for the entire show. But like I said, this isn't a show that has no budget. If I had to guess, I'd say that this has a budget anywhere between $30,000 to $50,000, which might not sound like a lot of money, but in the world of independent theater, that's actually pretty substantial. I'd say that looking at it, the majority of that budget is going into the technical elements on stage, so the set, the costumes, the lights. It also sounds like they're using a live orchestra, and a lot of independent theatrical productions, especially musicals, don't have it in their budget to pay a live band. So a live band, you know, that's a pretty impressive thing to have for your show. You know, I want to be really clear at the top of this video that I'm not shitting on these performers, these actors, these dancers. I'm not even really shitting on the choreographer. There's a lot about this production that's really bold and ballsy in a pretty exciting way. And I'm definitely inclined to give artists like this a bigger pass than I am to give people like the makers of the movie Argylle a pass. Because, as I said, most of the artists working on this are working on it in a largely voluntary capacity. So I have a lot of grace and compassion for these performers and artists because they're really doing the best that they can with what they have. Unlike Jason Fuchs and Matthew Vaughn, who had their movie financed to the tune of $200 million and turned in the thing that they turned in. God, I hate Argylle. I hate Argylle so much. I hate Argylle so much! And speaking of these actors and dancers, I do think that they're actually pretty talented. Like, they're doing a pretty good job with the choreography that they've been given. But as I said, it doesn't really work. I mean, the reason why it's viral on the internet right now is because it doesn't really work. So now that we've done this sort of initial look at it, let's get into the three main reasons why I think this doesn't really work. Look, I respect a big swing, a big, ballsy, artistic swing, and the choreography in Shikagoyo is absolutely a big swing. I love that at some point the choreographer for this show walked into a production meeting with their collaborators, with the producers for this theater company, with the director of the show. Maybe it's a director choreographer situation. I don't know. But I love that at some point they came into a production meeting and they were like, listen, guys, I've got a pretty crazy idea, but hear me out. Yo-yos. And then I really love that their collaborators were just like, you son of a bitch, I'm in. I think the approach being taken here to this choreography is very maximalist. This choreographer definitely wanted to announce themselves and had no qualms about making sure the audience knew they were doing a thing. But I think in order for maximalism to work, it requires balance. One of the major problems stylistically with Argylle, in my opinion, is that they're going for maximalism in too many areas of the film. It has a over-the-top maximalist visual style with lots of eye-popping color and kinetic editing with lots of match cuts and frenetic, colorful action sequences. And maybe that could work, but the screenplay then goes for a maximalist approach with a plot twist every 5 minutes. There's nothing in the movie to balance it all out. One of my favorite movies from 2023 is Yorgos Lanthimos' Poor Things. This is a movie that has a gorgeous, over-the-top, maximalist visual style. The art direction team for this movie threw the kitchen sink at every single scene. You can't watch the movie without noticing it and appreciating it. But one of the things that allows us to enjoy the maximalism of the visual style of Poor Things is how streamlined and simple the story of Poor Things is. I'm not going to spoil Poor Things in this video because if you haven't seen it, I think you absolutely should. But I will say that there's only one real plot twist in Poor Things. It centers around who Bella Baxter, the central character, actually is, but it's revealed about 10 minutes into the movie. And then the rest of the movie is us just watching Bella live her life. We're just following Bella through the story of her life. The screenplay is not trying to confuse or confound us. It's not trying to disguise anything or hide from us. It's not trying to stay 3 steps ahead of us at every turn. Not that there's anything wrong with writing that does those kinds of things, writing that's trying to deliberately hide things from the audience so that it can have reveals later on in the plot. But Yorgos Lanthimos is an intuitive enough storyteller to know that the visual style of his film is big enough and full enough that the storytelling itself does not need to have so many bells and whistles. In fact, it will be better for his film if the storytelling is just very straightforward and upfront with the audience. But that brings us back to what's going on here with Chicago. As I've already said, the choreographer here is definitely taking a big, bold swing, definitely trying to announce themselves and not try to not be noticed. Like they're making a thing that they want you to notice. And in many ways, that's a fitting tribute to the roots of this musical. Chicago, written by John Kander and Fred Ebb, is, in my opinion, one of the greatest American musicals ever written. It was very famously originally directed and choreographed by Bob Fosse. If you know anything about Bob Fosse, then you know that Bob Fosse was a director and a choreographer who was not shy about announcing his presence in a project. One of the biggest things that distinguishes Bob Fosse's legacy in the history of musical theater and musical film is his distinctive visual choreographic style. Bob Fosse was a classically trained dancer. I mean, he knew how to dance really, really well. He came up dancing in the era where being good at dancing wasn't good enough. Being very good at dancing was not good enough. You had to be excellent to even have a shot at making it in show business. And he could do it all. He was an excellent technical dancer with an excellent knowledge of technical dance and technical dance vocabulary. If he had wanted to, he absolutely could have had a career as a very successful and serviceable choreographer who choreographed very beautiful and good-looking shows with dancers doing big leaps and layouts and triple pirouettes and time steps. But what made Bob Fosse a legend, what made him one of the greatest directors and choreographers of all time, is the fact that he decided to take big artistic risks with his choreography. He decided to be deliberately subversive and confrontational with the way that he crafted movement. He decided to challenge his audience with his choreography. He built an unmistakable movement style, which is something that's honestly really hard to do. To build a singular style of movement that's instantly recognizable, that's recognizable even if you're looking at a still image of a person performing that style. So his philosophy was inherently maximalist in that what he was doing was taking a big risk and a big swing by trying to be so subversive. But the thing that balanced the big artistic risks he was taking with his choreography is the fact that his movement style is inherently based in a certain kind of minimalism. It's all about shape and small, deliberate, repeated movements. As I said, he's a talented enough dancer and choreographer that he could have had people doing all kinds of things and jumping and leaping and spinning at all times. But Fosse would always opt instead to go for something smaller, something simpler, something that required a lot more control and discipline from the dancers, a lot more performance from the dancers, a lot more character from them, something that immediately told the audience, you're watching something different right now. You're watching something original. You're watching something special. In the original Bob Fosse choreography for Chicago, there will be entire sequences where there's a stage full of dancers who are all in poses with their arms, draped over chairs or leaning up against walls. And all they're doing is just, and all that jazz, snapping. That's it. And that image of 30 dancers on stage in these different, very distinctively Fosse poses and their hands all moving in unison is very effective and very beautiful and really draws you in as an audience member. But I'll go out and say here that, if that's what you want to do, if you want to do yo-yos, I think it would work better if you weren't doing anything else but the yo-yos. So you've got a bunch of dancers posed all over the stage, and the audience doesn't know that they're palming yo-yos, and then on those beats, boom, surprise, there's a yo-yo, pop back up, and all that jazz. It's still a wild choice to have yo-yos on stage, but if you want a shot at getting away with a massive big swing like that, I think it kind of has to be just the yo-yos and nothing else. The problem with this choreography, as that commenter on Instagram pointed out, is it's not just that the yo-yos are such a big choice, it's that all of the choreography around the yo-yos is also such a big choice. So the audience is being blasted by this very big choreography and trying to digest that and come to terms with what a choice that is. And before they can even make sense of it, the yo-yos pop out and it's too much maximalism. It's maximalism on maximalism, and it needs to be one or the other. You need the weird hip hop TikTok dancing or the yo-yos. Me personally, if I had to choose one or the other, I think I'd just choose the yo-yos. So that's more or less the end of reason 1, but before we move on to reason 2, there's one more thing that I want to talk about. I take these dance classes every week, and I was talking to my dance instructor about this video that I'm making about the Chicago choreography, and I was sort of running my theory about the hat-on-hat maximalism by her to see what she thought of it, and she brought something up that I felt like I needed to add in the video. She brought up that another reason why it might not be working is there's a whole other kind of hat-on-hattery that is occurring here, a hat-on-hatteration, hatitudinous. And that's that if it is indeed this choreographer's intent to pay homage to Bob Fosse by creating a new kind of choreography in this production of Chicago, if that is indeed what this choreographer was aiming to do conceptually, again, I get the impulse and I respect and appreciate it, but a possible reason why it might be landing kind of weird is that it's innovation on top of innovation. You're innovating on top of an innovator. You're trying to create a new dance language on top of a choreographer who already did that. So it would kind of be like if I did a Michael Jackson tribute show and I didn't do any Michael Jackson choreography in the show, or even any choreography that was inspired by Michael Jackson. And I just said, instead of doing Michael Jackson's innovative choreography and innovative movement style, I'm going to honor Michael Jackson by creating my own innovative choreographic style for this piece. And it's like, cool, that's rad that you want to be like your choreographic heroes. You want to follow in their footsteps and innovate in your own voice. And I don't know, shit, maybe this dance with these moves and with the yo-yos would work really well and be really cool as its own thing. But trying to use the musical Chicago as the vessel for your innovation, a musical that is so famous for containing the innovative movement of a very famous choreographer, means that you might just bump into the problem of it being hat on hat, innovation on innovation. Something that I think makes choreography fundamentally and technically good is choreography that looks like it has flow. And what I mean by that is it doesn't just look like a bunch of different dance moves that were all stapled together to create a phrase of dance, but instead it looks like the entire piece is just one big flowing dance move. Each part of the sequence flows naturally into the next part so that they all connect in a way that makes fluid, logical sense. You want to be telling a story with your choreography. You want to be making choreography that looks like it feels good to do. I think the problem here is that the choreographer is drawing on a lot of TikTok choreography. I think this is a very deliberate and intentional choice by this choreographer. If it's not, then I don't know, but I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt and saying that they were very intentional about wanting to incorporate the style of TikTok dance into this musical. And the thing about a lot of viral TikTok dances is they don't have a very good sense of flow. They are just kind of a collection of dance moves stapled together to create a phrase. One of my favorite things about watching Bruno Mars dance with his backup dancers is how fun their dancing looks. And it looks fun precisely because it has impeccable flow. Every move that they're doing flows naturally and effortlessly into the next move. It's comfortable for the dancers. It makes a natural progressive sense to their bodies. And the audience understands that. People in the audience, whether they're dancers or not, inherently understand when a dance has flow and when it doesn't. And as I said earlier, the dancers in this video are doing the very best job that they can with what they're given. But one of the things that's really clear here to me as a choreographer is that this sequence is not easy for them to perform because each successive move doesn't come out of any place that is informed by the previous move. They sort of have to complete the previous move and then completely shift gears to get into the next sequence. And they're doing this seemingly with each progressive count of 8. So every single measure, they have to completely shift gears into an entirely new form of dance. And I think that there's a space for this kind of chaos in movement and dance. I don't think that dance always has to be conventionally pretty. I don't think it always needs to look like ballet. I really like dance that has sharp angles and abrupt movements and surprises. I really like choreography that isn't afraid to ask its dancers to move in ways and shape their bodies in ways that are kind of weird and a little off balance and off kilter. But I still think that fundamentally, especially in musical theater, if you're going to pull that off, you've still got to find a way to make it all look good. And that brings me to one of my favorite choreographers of all time, a choreographer that I pull a lot of influence from whenever I get hired to choreograph things, is Pina Bausch. I feel like Pina in her career was really known for pushing the parameters of what dance can be and what dance is definitionally. She would craft these pieces that you look at and think, is anyone in this piece actually dancing, or is this just sort of a piece of theater without words? And the answer is, yes, but also no, and also who knows, and maybe. Pina's definitely a big swing choreographer who was trying to announce herself and distinguish herself with her work. She would create these living sculptures with dancers of all ages and body types, and the goal wasn't necessarily for each individual dancer to look very beautiful and pretty, but I think what Pina always managed to do, what she always managed to pull off even when she was having dancers move in very unconventional ways, is she managed to create movement and shapes and pieces that are nice to look at. They are aesthetically pleasing. Even if the movement is chaotic and weird and subversive and challenging, there's still something about it that's undeniably beautiful.
I don't really have anything else to say about this, but this is Austin who's editing the video right now, and I just want to let this video kind of ride here and play because, God, I fucking love Pina Bausch so much. I mean, look at this thing, dude. This is the best. Do yourself a favor, and after you finish this video, just go and watch like an hour of Pina Bausch dance videos. I promise. It rules. She's the best. She's the GOAT.
Bob Fosse was an innovator who tried in his career to create a new dance vocabulary all his own, and he succeeded at doing that. He would cast dancers who were capable of doing very amazing, astounding, acrobatic, athletic feats, and then restrict them to doing very small, deliberate movements for the entire runtime of a show. But again, the thing about Fosse's movement is, it looks good, man. It's sexy. It's smooth. It's cool. Let's look at the movie version of Chicago, the musical, which I think is maybe the best movie musical made in like the last 40 years. It's a concept where the movie version almost heightens the musical. The ability to cut between the real life version of what's happening to these characters where they're actually in prison for murder, and the musical version of what's happening where they're sort of performing this speakeasy burlesque show about being in prison for murder, really heightens and enriches the overall concept of the musical Chicago. But going back to point one, this winds up being a pretty maximalist directorial choice to cut back and forth constantly between the real world and the musical world. And so what that's going to require in order to pull it off is some balance, which means that Rob Marshall can't really afford to go super maximalist and over the top and original and unique and zany and wild with his choreography choices. He's already doing so much with the edit by shifting focus back and forth between the real world and the musical world that it would be too much if Rob Marshall said, on top of that, I'm also going to try to completely reinvent the choreography for this show and come up with my own choreographic style and movement that's never been seen before. Luckily, Rob Marshall's never really been a choreographer who's super interested in innovating in any major ways. He's not trying to create his own dance vocabulary a la Bob Fosse. Rob Marshall's just a really good dancer and choreographer who knows how to create really good, solid, aesthetically pleasing dance sequences. Everything in this movie looks really good. The dancing is great and it's nice to look at. And that's really kind of the other big place where Chicago Yo kind of falls apart. Because if you want to go hat on hat and have yo-yos and really zany, over-the-top hip-hop TikTok choreography, shoot for the moon, swing for the fences, go for it, be my guest, but make it look dope. Because if you pull that off and you make it look awesome, I don't know, like you might be the next big thing. But boy, when you take a big swing like this and you don't pull it off, I don't know. At least you get to be a viral internet sensation, and that's not nothing. I still love this video. It's great. I'm so happy it exists. I want to see the rest of this production. Like, I need to know what this choreographer did with the hot honey rag. I gotta know. Are there segways in it? No, one wheels. Yeah, Velma and Roxy on one wheels, just going back and forth, and they're shooting like paintball guns. I like this choreographer, man. Like I respect the insanity of it. Like, you're crazy and I love it. And I do so love a great viral clip of, community theater or high school theater gone wrong. Like, man, I love In the Whites. I shouldn't talk shit. I did once choreograph a high school production of Aida that had a lot of white kids in it. Come to think of it, I also was in a production of West Side Story in college, and there were a lot of white kids. All right, that's it. To the artistic team behind Chicago, I say keep swinging for the fences, keep shooting for the moon. I really like you guys and think that what you made here is something that is really unique and wild and unhinged in the best way. And yeah, that's all from me. Go buy my double vinyl over at the website that's linked in the description, patreon.com/Austin Archer, to support this show. Shout out to my patrons. I love you all so much. You're the best people in the world, obvi. And that's it, hi, Mom and Dad, and yeah, that's it, right? My podcast, People Pleaser with Austin Archer. That's a podcast that exists. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can go check it out. There's a live broadcast of it here on this YouTube channel. What else? Oh, I've linked videos of things that I choreographed and directed in the description of this video if you want to see some of that stuff. I think that's about it. So yeah, keep it real. Keep on keeping on, and bye.
I'm just a mediocre white guy with a mustache. I probably have nothing if it weren't for the mustache. I'd just be another average white guy trying to use my skin and my gender to skate by. But I've got a mustache. Oh, it helps me stand out from the